Marcus, great to see you. First of all, how's things? You coping all right?
Yeah, look, I think, every family's here, same. Obviously, been caught up here, obviously, now for 6 weeks, and can't wait to get back to PNG for work. And everyone, every family's here coping it. I suppose same in England as well, and anywhere around the world. Can't wait to go back and go back to work and get the normal pay and everything back to normal.
And of course, your work takes you between international borders with Australia and Papua New Guinea, so particularly tough with the lockdown.
Yeah, it is. Obviously PNG, of course they've got their own rules, and in terms of allowing citizens of Papua New Guinea to go back in. I'm still a citizen, a citizen of Papua New Guinea, and as well a resident here in Australia. So in a way, I'm lucky that I will go to Papua New Guinea and come back to Australia freely, as probably the best option for me, to be honest. And a lot of Australians in PNG cannot come back here, and obviously companies, warning them not to come back because of if they got 2 weeks or 14 days isolation, that's what their break is. So they need to stay back until obviously Queensland or Australia open up their borders of travel to and forth. But obviously Australia allowing, only the Australian citizens and permanent residents to come back to the country. So it works. In a way, it sort of helped me a little bit more to be able to go back to work.
Just looking back on your rugby career for a spell here, you first played professionally over here in England with Hull.
Yes, I did. I think after the World Cup '95, and I got a 12 months there with Hull and in the first division side during that time, and I think several years later they went up to Super League. So it was a good experience for me, and obviously coming from a bush football, and everything was hard, and then came to the Gold Coast '97, and then went to Melbourne for obviously for 6 years there, '98 to 2003, and obviously spent 2 years with Leeds and 1 year with Bradford. So short one, but successful one for me. Yeah.
And looking back to your time at Melbourne, you were there. You were in that inaugural side, that first Storm side. What's your memories of the club then as it was being formed?
Look, it was difficult, as you know, and anyone who is to know about Melbourne, AFL is number one sport in Victoria, and probably other parts of Australia, Perth and Adelaide, and all that. So coming from Queensland or Papua New Guinea, it's always difficult to first time there, and we were under the radar for the most of probably until we won a grand final the second year. It was hard, but in a way it was good as well. When we lost, there's no pressure on us. But I think the John Ribbo and Chris Jones done and the administration plus the board, did very well in terms of working with the community in Victoria and Melbourne, awareness of rugby league and AFL as well. Took us, it was a little bit difficult, for AFL in Victoria. We went into mingle with the Victorian and Melbourne people to watch a game and participate in the development of the sports. And obviously we pay a lot of respect to Victorians, watch the games and do training sessions with St Kilda and Richmond Tigers and Essendon Football Club, Carlton Football Club, all the clubs in Melbourne or in Victoria that are the Victorian base. We did a lot of community work, and that sort of got a lot of most of our fans. Obviously now, 21 years ago, most of our fans are AFL fans, and obviously the Kiwis and South Pacific Islanders. Now that and during the time the Kiwis most of our fans. Obviously around Melbourne, Frankston, Dandenong, and all that, they all come down to watch the game, and most of our fans from there, and Australian locals who love AFL and basketball, and we were lucky that most of the Victorians come to watch any sports that come to the city. We were blessed with that, but full credit to John Ribbo and Chris Jones and the board. They did very well in terms of respecting the Melbourne and Victorian culture there, and going back now after 21 years or so. It was 50-50 whether we make it or we don't make it. And we were very lucky enough to have good experience from ex-players who were administrators plus as well, the coaching staff. Chris Anderson came from a family club, Canterbury Bulldogs. And then, we got a lot of the training and the physiotherapists from there, and they have a lot of experience with Canterbury. And it was, everything was set up there. It was, set up in a way that we respect the Victorian culture. Obviously, the Melburnians, we participate in everything that we can do in that era. So, winning the grand final in '99, I think it was a blessing of what the administration was and during that time. And obviously now the administration have stepped up to another level. What we can see ex-players going back every year, or sometimes I go, the last 4 years. I mean, last year I went back, and the Craig Bellamy and Frank Ponisi and David Donaghy, they and the chairman, they've done, they've lifted that club to another level, and of course with the experienced players that was there, and Cameron Smith is still hanging around, and they've done extremely well, to be honest. From they took it from where we were, and I think another 8 or 9 bars up to where we were, and professionally a lot of young boys, and and now they're involving the women rugby league as well. Wanted to play for the club, which is great, and to be part of the first 6 years, and it was nice to see that, and I see it as to Rhinos. When I first came to Leeds, and obviously I didn't know until I arrived in Leeds that the club itself, how professionally it was run, and I look at it as how Melbourne started, or the club was there for many years, and they were in hunger of that victory with Tony Smith and Ali Lawatidi, and obviously David Ferner and Matt Adamson was all there, and Andrew Duneman. And with the experience of Barry McDermott there for a long time, and Kevin Sinfield, and Kevin Sinfield was a captain during then, and obviously those young boys, they're full of enthusiasm. Honestly, after I left, and then looking back and seeing all these young boys winning grand final after grand final and World Club champion, it's I'm glad to be part of the winning, the first year in Rhinos. And I tell my kids today, and they're still wearing their Rhinos. And Kevin Sinfield has been chucking in some of those Leeds Rhinos Guernseys, and my 3 boys are glad to be part of it. In some ways, my firstborn is now 16 years old, and he's always looking back at it as we said, he knows about Melbourne Storm, and he knows about Leeds Rhinos, and what Leeds have become a very successful club. In the silverware, and what a journey, I'm glad to be part of those 2 great clubs in my life, or in my career, that I've met so many great people there, and in England, and enjoyed every bit of the 2 years that in England, especially with Leeds Rhinos, the professionalism within the players. How we went, the 2004 season was, it was an unbelievable season for me. Just to lose only 1 or 2 games was, it was something that I really enjoyed. Apart from Melbourne, that we lost a little bit more than what we lost in Leeds Rhinos in my first year, I'm just glad to be part of that start of the winning streak of finals after silverware after silverware. So I have great memories there, and I've got great memories as well with Leeds Rhinos as well. So I couldn't fault or I couldn't pick apart from the two clubs, to be honest. More so, my first year in England, I had to to try and be the best that I can. What I've done in Melbourne, and to try and do that in Leeds, and the amount of young players we had, sort of very enthusiastic. Danny Maguire, Richard Mathers, Mark Calderwood, Rob Barrow, all these young players, Jamie Jones, become good friends now, and yeah, they are legends of the league now. To be honest, looking back at it, some years back now, since 2004, and these boys are legends of Leeds Rhinos. Not only that, but rugby league in England.
And you had a special relationship with the fans at both clubs. At the old Olympic Park Stadium at Melbourne, there was a section named after you in the South Stand. There always is a special relationship with wingers in the South Stand, because you're so close to them during games.
Yeah, look, I don't know what it is. I think I sort of find myself in that position, and with the AFL AFL players coming up, and said, "Oh, I'm only the black person there, with apart from Taura and Nikau." So, look, to be honest, I've enjoyed obviously the family from Mildura in Melbourne. It's about 8 hours away from Melbourne, and Melbourne City, and they keep coming. How many 8 hours or 7 hours or so to drive in every game, and they play a big part in it. And I've been still in good relationship with them, catching up on on Facebook and messages and that and WhatsApp. They're still carrying that, and I said, "Hey, you gotta let it go." I said, "You gotta pick up another new, Suliasi and all these young boys." I said, "Nah. The start has been there, and the young boys look at it. But look, I'm glad to be part of it, and to be honest, coming from PNG and then playing Australia, and the South Stand of the Rhinos is you cannot beat that. They might be 3,000 or 5,000 fans or 2,000 following us everywhere, but it's always loud every game. And I treasure those 2 years of with Leeds Rhinos. I really enjoyed the football. We were very successful. First year, obviously, with grand final, and then the Challenge Cup the following year. Unfortunately, I'm still kicking myself today to throw those passes that nearly they're gonna try. But anyway, I think the boys came back, and Kevin Sinfield and the boys came back to win those those finals, which is great. And sometimes those things don't happen in your career, but I'm glad to play in the Challenge Cup, as the competition is one of the oldest competition in rugby league. So I'm just glad I play, even though we didn't win it, but to be part of it, it's a great occasion. Every time that that part of the year it comes in, I tune in to watch on Fox Fox Sports here of the games, and the games leading towards it, and on SBS here as well. So which is great.
And you're in a very rare group of people, the grand final winner in the NRL and in Super League. That must give you a great sense of satisfaction.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I'm very lucky to be in those clubs, and especially Rhinos and Melbourne, and in a short career, just 10 years of professional, started as 25, and then probably 31, and Met Guy might say 40, 42 when I finish. So look, I'm glad, and I'll cherish those the 10 years that I spent, and I've enjoyed every minute of it, in terms of the games that we play, and the two great clubs that I've been to. I've been, say, Hull. We were in the first division, but Gold Coast as a stepping stone for me towards to Melbourne. But as well, those two clubs as well. They've built my career up to be able to move on to the next one.
And growing up in Papua New Guinea, could you ever imagined that you'd have the career you would have done. I mean, rugby league's such a integral part of Papua New Guinea culture and everyday life.
Yeah, look, I think Phil, you came last year to Papua New Guinea and Mosby, so you know how crazy that is. And obviously, I think, and I said to Kevin, I said, you go to the villages, and I said they know you in and out, no problems at all. They read everything. Obviously now, Facebook with WhatsApp and all these things, that the social media that comes up. Papua New Guinea is so different in terms of rugby league. Any news that comes up, they know all about it. They will talk about it day and night and day and night. As you know, we are crazy about the game, and the game gets you a job. If you make it succeed, you make it to rugby league, or you become a hunters and you play in the intra super cup, you become very popular in or just overnight. It play a lot of, it plays rugby league. Help us a lot, and I'm living in Australia because of rugby league, and I went to England because of rugby league. It's the love of the game that we have, and doesn't matter about the money. As we go to more professionally, money becomes, but these boys will go home and they'll play till their 40s or 50s. Probably Stanley Jin will say that. Look up, yeah, enjoyed every bit of it, and Papua New Guinea, you will never take that game away from them. It's been a talking point in politics, talking point in business. Any right, rugby league, whatever the trouble fights, rugby league can walk in, and with legends of the game, that comes from Australia or Papua New Guinea. When we walk in, business doors are open for rugby league ex players to be able to help the companies they work for in terms. And it started off with your career. Tell us about your career. How did you make it? Going to, for myself, it goes to England, 96, and then come back to the Gold Coast to go to Melbourne, and then back to England and finish off England. A lot of experts, South Africans, English employees in PNG, and Australians, New Zealanders will ask about that, because they could not believe of what they are seeing in Papua New Guinea and how to make it all the way to that level. It's very, very difficult in my era. Say it's not long ago, only in 94, 95. That's not long ago, but how difficult it is for a young kid now that love the game, will watch YouTube they'll watch that same YouTube games over and over, and if they miss it on the weekend, they'll keep watching it for the whole week to try and watch every games they play. And in England now, in PNG now, with a lot of our Hunters boys playing in England in the division, they ask those players to send the footage of how did they perform during the day, and they find a way to get those footage up to see, because all those boys are talking back on the radio in Papua New Guinea, talking about their careers and what they have done in the last the last week or so, their preparation before the game and the game after that. It's everybody. I'm shocked because I don't hear much of the Hunters boys playing in England, and then I go to PNG, and it's like people are telling me stories that I don't even see on the news in Queensland. So everyone, even the kids, you go to school, talk to the kids, and the kids said, "Oh, so do you know, Ase Boas or Watson do this and did this and did that?" And I said, "No." It's just unbelievable. It's the social media have taken rugby league into a different level of promotion.
Yeah, and obviously last year, Reece Martin, who plays the Rhinos now, led the Cornwalls in that famous win over Great Britain, and that, as you were saying there, that was televised on terrestrial TV in Papua New Guinea for the whole country to watch.
Oh, honestly, I mean, Phil, you were there, and that whole month, the game was televised probably every second day for MTV to watch. We've never, in our national team, we've never beat or France or England, for that matter, or Great Britain. And I know Great Britain had a bit of a slump, and it's we told our boys it's a good opportunity to try and go and play well. We knew that it's going to be very difficult, but I know Great Britain side, they are very, very professional. It's not gonna be the same next time. And we told the boys it's not gonna be the same. I said you are very lucky to beat one of the best countries in the world. This is where the game is started. And the next time, I tell you what, they'll give us a flogging when it comes. So I said be prepared, and that victory for us, in Papua New Guinea, it gives the politicians and our business, business people, and our local. It really give a lot of push into young boys and young girls now that they're playing rugby league in the country. Even though every family talks about rugby league in every whatever dinner time during the day, or they finish from school, walking home, play, kick, put 1 kilo packets of rice together and put orange juice, orange in there, or lemon in there, and tie it up with a rubber band and kick it and pass it like a ball. And it's another level. And I still go back and see it, and I come back to Australia sometimes and buy 2 or 3 balls and give it to the young boys who are playing on the side of, Mosby there on the streets, with barefoot on the concrete there. So it's just, you drive past every day and you see them doing it with the barefoot, and yeah, it's just it's amazing. Been coming from there and done it as we were kids, and then coming back and looking back at it, it's a different world, and I'm proud to be a part of it. And obviously Reese has been one of our top players, and discipline, and now one of our legends in Papua New Guinea, with David Mead and Paul Aiton, who was with Leeds Rhinos before, and there's a sense of relationship with Leeds Rhinos, of what we have. Obviously, me going through, and then Paul Aiton and all these PNG, and Reese going back to Leeds Rhinos. We have a connection there. Everyone keeps asking me to ring, Kevin Sinfield and give this young boys coming up, and I said no, I can't. They have to make it first before Kevin or the Leeds Rhinos will, if they're interested in them. So it's a sense of relationship and building with Leeds, and I know it's going to be difficult. These boys have to play a semi-professional as Intra Super Cup to be able to make it, to be selected in either Super League or NRL, or obviously in France with Catalans, and in the highest level, obviously, and they're still plugging away, and some competition stop. Obviously, the COVID-19 is happening, and competition stop, but the local bush rugby league doesn't stop. They just keep playing, and so the competition, there's no prize to win. They just keep playing every Sunday. It doesn't matter what the government said. The government comes in and said no, there is no. They just still do it in the village. It's just unbelievable.
And what we're catching up with former Leeds players, and we're asking Leeds fans to see who they're going to pick once the NRL starts next week. So I'm going to put you on the spot, put you to be an ambassador for Melbourne Storm. Why should Leeds Rhinos fans shout for the Storm over the next coming weeks, when it's the only rugby league on the planet?
Look, I think Leeds and Melbourne have that rivalry, I suppose. During that time, obviously Leeds Rhinos won a lot of grand finals, and as well Melbourne as well, and Kevin was a captain there, and they've that rivalry between the two on World Club Challenge. Leeds won how many, and Melbourne won how many, and Leeds kept going. They're very, very competitive, and I suppose, to be honest, to me, I look at it, there's some connection there with Leeds Rhinos. Obviously, that's because I played with both clubs, and I always look at it that way. And look, Melbourne is always the same. They'll pick up players that are not wanted, and obviously there's a lot of names that we can put up or name, but they'll pick up a lot of players who are not wanted, and they bring them to the structures in place. And I suppose I look at Leeds at this era. I look at Leeds as one of the most competitive clubs in England. If you look at the last 10 years or 15 years, since 2004, 10 years, I suppose, the amount of silverware that Leeds get, they are in the level of what Melbourne Storm achieved, to be honest. I'm not a statistics person, but the amount of grand final that Leeds have won and Melbourne has won as well, and the World Club Challenge, and Leeds just lost the other one played in Melbourne. That will be a hard one, but Leeds as well lost a lot of great players. Obviously with Kevin going, and then Atkins and everybody left the club, and sometimes you just can't do that when all the top players that you brought up as juniors comes up, and then suddenly they've gone to another clubs, and then it's a rebuilding process again.
And there's parallels there, isn't there, between the Storm and Leeds iconic leaders who've been there a long time. Cameron Smith looks like it'll be his last season this year. He's going around again. You played in his debut.
Yeah, obviously he came in one game in 2002, and obviously he came in 2003 when Richard Swain was our number one hooker there, but he signed a 3-year contract with Hull in 2002, not knowing where he's gonna go in 2003, but obviously Wayne Bennett helped him out there to go to Brisbane Broncos in 2003, and we were lucky enough that young Cameron Smith was coming through as the number one hooker for North Devils in the Intra Super Cup there. So he played one game, but the opportunity was there, and he jumped on it, and he was, of course, lucky enough to be mentored by the likes of Stephen Kenny and Robbie Cairns and all those players that we have the start of the year, obviously when Melbourne was born, obviously 98. So all those players were still there, and of course Craig Bellamy making his first year during that year, and obviously a lot of us, he wanted to build that club from his structures. The Melbourne Storm structures were there. He came in and add into that, and it took him a while. Was the 2003, 2006, he was successful enough to go to the grand final. So, and a lot of those young players who coming from Intra Super Cup in Brisbane, in Queensland, and then several young players from obviously Canberra, and the kids of the players that the sons of the players that he played with, and Ryan Hoffman and all these boys that he picked them up and said, hey, I'll give you another chance here, and it's up to you now to make it. And he's a great mentor of the boys, and the boys played for him. And with that, the opportunity that he's given them, and they were 19, 20 years old. And obviously Billy Slater came from Innisfail and spent the one season with North, and then was playing very well. They had an opportunity, and then Greg Inglis and Israel Folau and all these boys, came through when Craig was there. Obviously, it was difficult for Craig because, you're not the first pick to pick the young talents. And Broncos and Roosters and all the other bigger clubs have the opportunity. Melbourne was the last place that you want to go to, and we knew that from the beginning. So a lot of us were one of the first pick to go to Melbourne. We were looking for clubs, and then Melbourne wants you to go, and we had a chance to go to try and make it. So yeah, look, I think the silverware that Leeds Rhinos have and Melbourne have is it's so to say that the rivalry between the two clubs of winning so many silverware during the last 10 years is, I think, to be part of it in both clubs. I'm proud of it. What Gary and Paul Cardick and especially Gary and Paul and the board and the administration, you guys feel you've been there from the beginning, and what you guys have put through, to be able to make every game every day, the promotion of all the clubs, you guys play even a big part of what some of us, the players, go in, and a lot of players become legends, and is what you guys put in, week out. Not only that, but day in, day out of what you guys do is, that has to be respected by every players, and every players knows that.